Welcome to this tutorial on configuring group policy settings for PC over IP session variables. This video is based on instructions outlined in the View 5.0 Administration Manual, Section 8, Configuring Policies, pages 157 to 167. The PC over IP protocol built into View is designed to provide optimal rendering of high-resolution graphics and full-motion video in a WAN environment and support proper keyboard settings and security settings for the end-user devices. In the absence of group policy settings, the default PC over IP settings are used for each end device and in most cases are fine. For devices and situations where the default values are not appropriate, it is necessary to install and configure a PC over IP policy group policy object on the View implementation's domain controller as explained in this video. We will start by connecting to the desktop of the Active Directory domain controller for the View implementation. From here, we click Start, Administrative Tools, and then Group Policy Management. This brings us the Windows Group Policy Management window, and in this case, our View implementation domain, sandbox.local, is already expanded and the Group Policy Objects folder is highlighted. We now expand the Group Policy Objects folder and confirm that the PC over IP policy GPO has not yet been added. To install the PC over IP policy GPO from the template, right-click on the Group Policy Objects folder and select New. This brings up a dialog box and we can name our new policy PCoIP policy and click OK. We can now see that the new PC over IP policy was added to the Group Policy Objects folder. Now right-click on that entry and select Edit. This brings up the Group Policy Management Editor. On the left, under Computer Configuration, expand the Policies folder, right-click Administrative Templates, and select Add Remove Templates. Now click the Add button in the dialog box, browse to the folder called PCoIP.adm, select it, and click Open. The dialog box confirms that the PCoIP policy template has been added. Click Close. We can now confirm that the template has been added by expanding the Administrative Templates folder, then expanding the Classic Administrative Templates folder, and seeing that a folder for PC over IP session variables has been added. We can now minimize the Policy Management Editor window and go back to the Group Policy Management window. We now need to link this GPO to our domain by right-clicking on sandbox.local and selecting Link an Existing GPO. In the dialog box, select PC over IP policy and click OK. We can now see in the right panel that the PC over IP policy GPO has been linked to the sandbox.local domain. We now right-click on the PC over IP policy in the left panel and select Edit. This brings us back to the Group Policy Management Editor window. Expand Policies under Computer Configuration, expand Administrative Templates, expand Classic Administrative Templates, expand PC over IP session variables, and finally select Overridable Administrator Defaults. This lists all of the PC over IP setting variables. Settings are the same as those for the non-overridable administrative defaults. However, the non-overridable settings cannot be changed by an administrator and when set, take precedence. If no parameters are explicitly set, the defaults prevail. We will now go through the first two settings and refer the user to the View Administration Manual for discussion of the rest. Let's double-click on the first setting, Turn off Build to Lossless feature. The PC over IP Build to Lossless feature allows the protocol to initially display images with acceptable but noticeably imperfect fidelity. However, over time, the protocol adds more detail to the images as bandwidth constraints allow. As stated in the Help panel, turning off Build to Lossless may provide some bandwidth savings, but it is not recommended for use cases where lossless imagery is required. Since build to lossless is such a key feature of the PC over IP protocol, even if I click the Enable Radio button to turn it off, that setting is not saved unless I also check the I accept to turn off the build to lossless feature disclaimer checkbox. Clicking the Next Setting button now brings up the Configure the maximum PC over IP session bandwidth setting. By default, PC over IP does not put a limit on the bandwidth used. However, as explained in the Help panel, there may be use cases where setting a limit corresponding to the maximum bandwidth of the end device's internet connection can help reduce lost packets and improve the end user experience. Clicking on the Enable Radio button causes the Options panel to show a default limit of 90 megabit per second, which can then be manually adjusted as appropriate. This concludes this tutorial on configuring group policy settings for PC over IP session variables. For more information and an explanation of the other PC over IP group policy settings, please refer to the View 5.0 Administration Manual, Section 8, Configuring Policies, pages 157 to 167.